Hello again, and welcome to another edition of the Press Box Preview. I'm Tyler Cavali. He is the much dapper Scott Foster, and boy, you're looking sharp here this Thursday.
Thanks. Job interview.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. Well, thanks for tuning in to another PBP, and thanks to our great sponsors as well. And in all seriousness, we're really getting down to the end of the regular season. 8-man football. This is their final week as the playoffs start next weekend. Round of applause, I think, to not only the school administrators and the student athletes, but to everybody. For the most part, it's been mostly a successful season. And I'm not jinxing anybody, I hope.
Well, I think that, it's difficult when we come to the point where we're at right now, because we have a lot of, coronavirus is really hitting again, and it's getting serious. But you're right. The administrators, the coaches, they've followed protocols for the most part. They've done what they needed to do. The fans have done what they needed to do to get us to this point where we're almost done with the regular season. It really is pretty impressive.
Well, we have a great week coming up for you, a Thursday and Friday edition of high school football that can be heard on the stations of KRVN. So let's get right to it. On 93.1 The River on Thursday evening, it's a pair of 4 and 3 teams in 8-man football wrapping up their regular season as Southern Valley will host just south of Oxford, not too far from Kansas. We'll host the Arapahoe Warriors. Again, both teams are 4 and 3. This is going to be a fun matchup because both teams are starting to find their stride a little bit. And let's start with Southern Valley. This is their first year in 8-man football. Remember, they didn't really have a season last year. They kind of had a forfeit.
Right.
But things are really coming together despite a 78-20 loss against Dundee County Stratton last week. But besides that game, things are going well. But who hasn't struggled against DCS?
I got to see them play. They're really good. If there's a better team in Class D, I would be surprised. They're the odds-on favorites. So throw that one out. If you're Southern Valley, you move on, you go on to the next one. They're in the playoffs right now, Southern Valley is, so now it's a lot of placement.
Sure.
Obviously they may still get in, but there's all kinds of algorithms if you lose. But you want to win and improve your seeding as much as you can at this point.
And I think it's interesting when I was talking to Eagle head coach Russell Norton, who's in his third year guiding Southern Valley. He says they had some chances early on that game to slow DCS, and he was also kind of happy. They put up 20 points against the Tigers, which is something that that DCS defense hasn't allowed a lot of this year.
Well, you talked to Highline. They felt pretty good at 16-0 when they stopped them a couple times, and then the gates just opened. That's a good team. So, again, you take the positives out of that, which it sounds like he's doing, and then you move on.
He also feels like, boy, they're just a couple of plays away, and they're only other 2 losses this season. They open up against Ravenna, who's been pretty good in the last couple of years. Only a 4-point loss there. Then they barely lost to Elm Creek a couple of weeks later. But he said there's just a couple of plays in each one of those games, and this whole season could have gone a little bit different. And he said maybe they carry the momentum if they win those 2 games into DCS. And he says, who knows what happens?
Just look at their basketball team last year. We didn't think they would make it nearly that far, and they did. So these kids know how to win.
They have great athletes. Carter Bowes, their quarterback, has been terrific. 1,300 yards passing, a 66% passing percentage, by the way, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, that's really good.
NFL quarterbacks would love to have that, by the way. He's also thrown for 14 touchdowns, can do it all. It's a well-balanced offense. And so when I was talking to Arapahoe head coach Dustin Kronhoffen, he mentioned this is a lot of athletes here, and they're studs, and he realizes that on both sides of the football, this is a talented team. Yeah,
they really are. I mean, it's a relatively big school, and they draw from a lot of different communities, obviously, and they got some players, and so they're fun to watch.
Now, speaking of Arapahoe, they're coming off of a shootout with Bertrand last week, 58-40, the final in that game. Arapahoe coming away with the win. They opened up with a 28-0 lead in that game in the first half, and then Bertrand made it a bit of a ball game. They got within 10 points, but boy, their rushing attack was lethal. They ran for 441 yards. Quarterback Tristan White for Arapahoe had a magnificent game, 249 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, all on the ground, and he even picked off the opposing quarterback 3 times. It's a monster game.
Wow, that is a great game. We've been following Arapahoe the last couple of weeks. They're showing some real signs of being a pretty tough team this should be an interesting game. Now, if I'm right, Arapahoe needs to get this win to make it in the playoffs. They're 33rd right now, so they're kind of on the outside looking in. So they need this win.
Yeah, they're 33rd in Class D1 standings overall. So you lose, you pretty much have your season complete. I mean, you really need a lot of things to go your way. You win, and you're pretty much in. Same thing with Southern Valley. If they lose, they're not necessarily done, but boy, they need a lot of help to secure that spot. They're just high enough. I think they'll be okay. And also going off their schedule and the points. But both teams, just better. If you win, then you know you're going to be playing next Thursday.
Yeah, because all kinds of goofy stuff can happen between the game and when all those numbers are added up, depending on a myriad of other things, other teams that you've played, how they do and stuff like that. So you can't count on it. You just have to control your own destiny.
Arapahoe playing very well here as of late. So is Southern Valley. This should be a very evenly matched up contest coming up on Thursday. Again, 4-3 Southern Valley welcoming 4-3 Arapahoe. Pre-game at 6:50. Kickoff is at 7. We'll have that game for you on 93.1 at the River. On 880 KRVN on a Friday, it is 6-1 Elm Creek. It's our only lone game we have for you on Friday evening. They will welcome 3-4 Bertrand. Boy, Elm Creek firing in all cylinders right now. They have won 4 straight games, and they're coming off a 55-20 drubbing of Alma last week. In that game, Xavier Perez, we've mentioned him several times on Press Box Preview, he had also a monster game. 4 touchdowns, 1 for a fumble recovery for a touchdown. He also is now over 1,000 yards rushing on the season and 12 touchdowns overall. This Xavier Perez kid, he's a real deal.
And Perez is quick as a hiccup, and he can really shows a great deal of speed that you don't often see in 8-man. He's really good, and you look at the one miscue for Elm Creek against Amherst. They would like to have that one back. Otherwise, they've got a wonderful season. It ended up being a pretty good season anyway. But you got to think Jay Stuhlin right now is licking his chops coming into these playoffs.
Hiccup's pretty quick, right?
Hiccup's fast.
It's fast, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just have to confirm.
I don't know.
Everybody's hiccups are different. So either way, you get the point. Xavier Perez, very quick. Quarterback Bo Knapp, by the way, very efficient last week in the win over Alma. 5 of 6 for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, he didn't have to throw a lot because Perez was doing his thing. Bo Knapp has been pretty solid at the quarterback position this year.
Bo's done what he's needed to do. He's been a game manager and doesn't have to do anything incredible when you got some home run hitters behind you. And he's done a real good job for this Buffalo team. By
the way, as I mentioned, they're firing in all cylinders. Their offense has been hard to stop. They've scored 2 straight games with 50 points in each contest. That's pretty good at the end of the season.
That's really good, and that's good 8-man football there, that's for sure.
Now, their opposing team, Bertrand, they've struggled a little bit. They're 3-4 on the season. They have lost 3 straight coming into the game on Friday. They're coming off that shootout loss to Arapahoe, 58-40. Now, credit Coach Colfax's team for fighting in that game. Again, they're down 28-0 in that first half. They really could not stop Arapahoe's running attack in that contest last Friday, but they kept fighting. And quarterback Eric Ackerman, another kid we have talked about a lot here during Press Box Preview, threw for 290 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also did have 3 interceptions, and if not for those picks, who knows how close of a game this might have been, but he really kind of got them back in this.
Yeah, it's been a tough road here for Bertrand after a nice start to the season. They lost to Highline, a team where they were winning. They lost to Southern Valley, which just in a heartbreaker game. And then last week, with a nice comeback, they've come up short. So they've just got to figure out a way to get this done. And unfortunately, they're going up against a real good Elm Creek team here. But there is talent on this Bertrand team, no doubt about it.
And still fairly young. So no matter what happens here, as they're on the outside looking in, the D1 playoffs, they need a win and then a lot of help to get them into the playoffs. But going back to last week, just one thing to note, Ethan Klingenberg, who we usually talk about on his running game, he did have a good game running, but it was after a 5 or 10 yard dink-a-dunk pass. He caught 3 passes for 129 yards, 2 touchdowns, and ran for 51 yards. So he did most of his damage after making a quick catch, and then he is quick as a hiccup.
Yeah. That we decided that was quick.
Yeah, no, that's pretty quick.
He's very good. And, if he was on my team, I would have him touch the ball 30 times a game. I mean, he's just that good.
Again, they need to win and need help to have a chance at the playoffs. A lot of help for Bertrand. Elm Creek, they're sitting pretty. A win here, they should be one of the top couple of teams to host coming up next Thursday.
Yeah, and that'll be a tough out.
So 6-1 Elm Creek this upcoming Friday. The only game we have for you on 880 KRVN against 3-4 Bertrand. Jason Jorgensen will have the call for you on that one. Of course, that game can be heard at KRVN.com. Other games to note on the other stations, KUVR 2 Holdridge will host 5-1 Kearney Catholic. And while the Dusters gave up 480 yards rushing last week in their loss to Broken Bow, they'll have a different kind of attack that they'll have to worry about this week.
And I don't know if this is good or not, but they're getting the Stars after coming off of a big win by the Stars over Adams Central. I think you could arguably say an upset win for them. And so they're either going to be really juiced and ready to go against Holdridge, or maybe there's a bit of a hangover after that game. I don't know, but Holdridge is struggling right now.
Yeah, I think, and trying to end this on a high note. Again, a couple more games left, but boy, that'd be big in terms of confidence if they can beat the Stars.
A couple tough ones for the Dusters to go against the Stars, and then the Swedes next week.
KUVR, that's where you can find that game. Holdridge hosting Kearney Catholic on KRVN.com. Meanwhile, over on 1049 MaxCountry.com in six-man action. It's 5-0 McCool Junction at 2-4 Hampton. Boy, the McCool Junction football team doing really well this season as they did last year.
Can we just give them the trophy right now? I mean, who's going to beat McCool Junction? Yeah. This group is really good in six-man football. I good luck to you, Hampton. This is a good team.
Hawks will try to upset the McCool Junction Mustangs. Again, 1049 MaxCountry.com on Friday. Six-man action, 5-0 McCool Junction at 2-4 Hampton. On CoolRadioNow.com, it's 2-4 Seward at 2-4 York. These two teams struggling in Class B, and really they're both fighting for not only playoff positioning, but maybe playoff berth as well.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game. Both teams trying to find some, get back some tradition, maybe get back some pride and get a win here.
And on KNEB.com, this is another matchup to watch for in Class B. 3-2 Scottsbluff. They seem to have found their way in the last couple of weeks. They're going to be tested, though, at 4-2 McCook. That's going to be a big Class B game. Yeah, and maybe, gosh, you give the advantage maybe to McCook just because they don't have to drive. I don't know, but this, you're right about Scottsbluff. They've righted the ship. McCook is McCook. That's a good game. It's a good game. Should also mention over on KTICradio.com, this will be an interesting game in Class D1 as 5-2 Howells Dodge will host 4-3 Clarkson Lee. Clarkson Lee is in the 32nd spot in D1, so Clarkson Lee needs to win. If not, they need a lot of help. Meanwhile, Howells Dodge punched their ticket a couple weeks ago, but Clarkson Lee has to win. You never want a need-to-win situation against any Howells team. They breed athletes up there. So a big week here coming up for 8-man and just high school football in general across the state of Nebraska. Next Thursday will be the first round of 8-man high school state football playoffs, and of course we'll have those for you on the stations of KRVN. But a big week this week with 4-3 Southern Valley against 4-3 Arapahoe. That game on Thursday can be heard on 93.1 The River. And on Friday on 880 KRVN, it's 6-1 Elm Creek hosting 3-4 Bertrand. All of the games can be heard at KRVN.com. But this is a massive week for both 8-man, 11-man, 6-man, whatever it may be, as playoff positioning. And, well, teams are also fighting for their life. Yeah, this should be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. He's Scott Foster. I'm Tyler Cavali. This has been another edition of the Press Box Preview here on KRVN.